Hi guys, it's day 23 of April and I'm here to do a video on my first step through my editing process. Now, this is my first nano story featuring these characters, and I have written many stories beyond that point. But I'm going back to the start and actually going to work through and edit this first draft. Now, this first draft that I'm working on isn't actually finished, it is in its middle stage, but I wanted to use this as a practice run to sort of test what works for me and what doesn't in the process of editing, so that I can go forth and continue with my other novels in the future. Now, I might mention that I'm using this book here as a very, very sort of brief template, I guess, or guide to revising my novel. I have found some things useful, but other things just don't fit into my life or my schedule at the moment. And I also don't agree or don't like some of the way that he words things, and etc, etc. But it is actually a very good book so far, and again, I am just working at using it as a template. So this is the weekend novel, a 3 drafts novel. So if you're looking for a bit more strict, very in-depth look at how to edit, going from everything to the structure, subplots, key scenes, and rewriting, and it's broken down into 17 weekends, but for me it's probably going to take a couple of months. Now, I think I'm at weekend 3 stage. That's pretty good, but it's taken me a long time to actually sit down and do this as well. So it does take a lot of guts and determination to do this, I will say that. Sometimes it is stressful. I know this process that I'm doing right now that I'm going to show you can be tedious, but it's also very rewarding. And I'm going to get started, so I'm not going to tell you when the next video is going to be. I will probably just make the videos as I'm starting the next process. I think that will be easier on my mental stability, and in case, it takes me an extra 2 months to do this process. As it is, this process I'm about to show you, I am slowly working through my scenes by using my weekly planner. So I would definitely suggest, as a recommendation, if you are going to edit or revise your novel in any capacity, I would definitely break it down into very, very bite-sized pieces, as you will see I am about to show you. Okay, let's imagine I have a 70k word novel. Let's just pretend this is my novel, okay, because I've already broken this bitch up. This is my novel, and it's full of scenes and it's full of chapters. What you're going to want to do first is, depending on how your novel is structured, if it's in chapters, then break it up into chapters. If it's in scenes, break it up into scenes. When I write during Nano, I don't generally tend to chapter things. I write some sort of subheading, and then I just write. And that subheading usually reflects what I'm about to write in the next session or sessions, etc. Basically, it's a scene. So my novels are broken up into scenes. It is suggested that there's, I think, about 40 or so scenes in a novel, or something much deeper than that. I'm going to probably go into the whole structure of this in another video, actually. That might be a good idea. I'll go into it more in depth in another video. This is just a very basic video to show you what I'm going to do. So I've broken this up into God knows how many scenes, and it's for me to, I'll show you just here. I have a scrapbooking guillotine, but you can use scissors as well, because a lot of the time I found that this huge document, I had to cut, this there, and, at the end of the scene. So obviously the next scene would have continued down from there. So this process can be tedious as well, but it's actually quite interesting and very useful to break your scenes down. And so if that means cutting them up like that, or even if you've just got chapters or whatever, print your chapters or scenes out, put them together, and lay them down. Okay, so just lay them down, whether you have a big space or not. If you don't have as much space like I do, I really don't like laying things all out on a desk because it just gets confusing. I'm going to recommend, and for this process you are going to need something like it or to have these on hand. They're very inexpensive. I'm pretty sure you can get them at any store that you can think of that sells office equipment. You're going to want to get some index cards. Now you can get whatever size you like, but generally the bigger sizes are going to be more beneficial for what I'm about to show you as well. So definitely bigger ones. I suggest medium size or small ones for your synopsis. If you find that after you're writing down your synopsis of your chapter and it's taking more than 2 cards, then I would probably recommend you use another one of these. But if not, like me, I can usually fit my synopsis of my scenes because they're relatively, 5-6 pages, maybe 20 at most, short. And usually after I've done my my scene profiles, everything's on here, so if I really need to go back to it or write more, I can always do it in the later stages of my novel editing process. But generally everything usually fits on these cards. So get yourself some of these, okay? What I like to do with these is I will write scene profile on top here, and on these ones I will write what scene or what chapter it is. I also do that on here as well sometimes, depending on what my process is. I put what scene it is on this card as well, just in case these get muddled up or anything like that. If you're kind of that suits you better, so you don't lose cards or mix them up, especially if you're spreading out. Okay, so you've got these 2 here. Now, when I'm starting, I generally tend to do things in bulk because it just makes things a lot easier. I started out by cutting one scene, making the cards, writing it all up, and then it just got too tedious, so I cut all the scenes, and then I split these into the piles, and then I grabbed these cards, I stuck them on top of my, and it really doesn't matter what way you stick them, on my scene, and I paperclip them or bulldog them, whatever you have, and then they're there. Okay guys, so that's what you're going to want to do. You want to put all this shit together and then put it down. And if you've stuck all that together and you know what scenes are, you won't really need to write them on the paper. But if you're really, really anal and you need to do that, then I probably would recommend writing that this is scene 6 or this is scene on every bit of paper, just in case you just are really spreading your shit out on the floor or on a desk. So that is really the best way to do it, and that's what the best way for me to do it, rather. Sorry. You can do whatever way you want. This is just a suggestion. Okay. So generally, after I've done that and all my kits are ready, which I call them kits, scrapples me dead. All my scenes are ready to go. I've already done all this, so I don't have to stress about putting these together anymore. I just grab one out every day. And I bought myself a clipboard, and I definitely recommend buying a clipboard. They are cheap and efficient, and they can be little desks if you're sitting there watching TV, doing your editing or whatever. They are portable desks, and they are fantastic. So usually in the morning or in the night time, I will put the next scene that I'm going to work on in my folder. Sorry, in my clipboard. Okay. So that's all prepared. So when that is all prepared, I move on to the next stage, which is actually just labeling the cards, the scene profile card. Now, you could do this on a piece of paper as well, I forgot to mention. If you want to, if you don't really like the scene card kind of idea, you can do this on a piece of paper and attach it to the scene as well. That might give you a little bit more space if you are the kind of person who wants to write a lot. Just make sure that you are labeling everything and keeping it in the same pile so that it doesn't get lost. basically it's a scene profile. I've said this 1,000 times. Okay, so I'm going to show you. I hope that you can see. Here we go. Now this is what my general scene card looks like. So obviously this is just an example. So for my scene I will write the name, the location, ritual, setting, character, action, dialogue, high point and subtext. Okay. Now for the name, obviously that's the name of the scene or the chapter. So if it's chapter 1 or scene Harry goes and takes a piss, that's going to be what you're going to put there. In location, you're going to want to put where it is in the act, like an Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 of your novel. In ritual, these are things like thresholds, barriers, for example, you know, a funeral, a burial, or a first kiss is a threshold because it's putting the character into, or propelling a character forward, or having a new experience. Then we have setting, which is things that, kind of like a screenplay, I guess you can say. We look at things like, what's the time in the novel? What's the temperature? Is it hot, cold, you know, warm? Is it winter, summer? What's the weather like in your novel? What's the lighting like? And are there any objects in the setting? So objects could be, you know, road signs or things like that. So you're just looking through your scene or chapter and you can just jot those down. I'm going to let you know right now, guys, that this looks like a lot, but you really just don't have to stress about it. You don't have to go into too much detail during this time. Just try and make a dot point on as much as you can possibly see when it comes to these things. It doesn't have to be exorbitant or pages long. It can just be bullet points. I think that's the best way to do it too. Okay, so then you've got characters. So who's the characters, point of view, description of the characters as well. I usually just highlight the characters' names to see who's kind of like a, I guess you could say, a cast list. Then we've got some actions. You know, these are strong verbs. So like the horse slips and hits the ice, or someone slaps someone, or they're having sex or something like that. Those are actions. Those are very strong verbs and actions. So those are things that you look for with the action. I read a lot of erotica, guys, so hopefully this is not going to be too weird. Okay, I hope you guys can hear me too. Okay, so dialogue. Write some short lines about the dialogue, especially if there's any very powerful dialogue in your scene or chapter. Echo words, so if there's words that your character's using a lot, like bitch or sorry or something like that, like just words that are very frequently coming up. Any objects in the dialogue that are inserted. And I don't know what that says, but I think it says Back to the Future. So for some reason I wrote Back to the Future. I'm not very good at doing this, guys. Okay, so then you want to write down your high points. So what is the mini climax? Where in the chapter does the action peak to you? And when the scene ends. Next, also and last, you're going to want to highlight the subtext. So subtext is this unspoken and invisible, unsaid things. It's basically the undertone of the book. Now, I'm still trying to learn about subtext, so I'm not the best kind of person to talk to you about subtext. But it's the things that are left unsaid, pretty much. Things that are mentioned that they don't really talk about to each other, but you add in subtle ways throughout the book. So that is the scene card. So you write down all of these, and I suggest, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to hold it up here, and maybe pause your video if you're watching this and wanting to write all it down. But basically, if you can get a general idea of this, it's very simple. Another very quick way to do it is to just write down the headings and write down whatever you think that you want to add under these things. So subplot, characters, scene, name, setting, object, action, and sometimes the archetype. So usually after a scene or a chapter, I write cut to, because that's going to be the next scene or the next chapter. That helps me to put my mind into the perspective that it is the next scene and we're cutting to the next scene or next chapter in the novel, and it's kind of set up like a screenplay. Okay, so after I filled out this card with just the names, okay, just these headings, I don't do anything like this yet, I just do these headings, I was just sort of showing you guys what to write. Then I read through my novel. I read through the scene, and if I've already done the card, I can sometimes just go through and write down things as I'm reading them. I find that easier, but you may want to read your scene or chapter first. I would recommend, if you're starting out, I definitely read the chapter first, and it really helped me get an idea of where my story is, especially if you haven't written anything around it for a long time. It just gives you refreshes your memory a lot better. But because I've been working with these characters for about 2.5 years, I know these characters. I can remember just by reading like the first page what the scene is about usually, and so I go through this and I just write things down, and then you can start to highlight things as well. So you're going to want some different coloured highlighters. You can have a highlighter for each of these. I probably would recommend, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 points, I believe. So maybe if you can't or don't have 9 different coloured highlighters, pencils or textures or anything like that is really good. I use these Staedtler Texture for Classics, and I really love these because they come in a variety of different colours, and I think I paid about maybe $10-15 for them, but they've lasted me a long time and they have a lot of colours with them, so I really like that, and they're really smooth to highlight as well. I'll just show you them, and they're really good, so I definitely would recommend them. I would buy them again. Okay, so after you've done that, you start the process of highlighting things. So for example, this is a chapter. I'm just going to show you the chapter the scene that I just did last night. I finished off. So that is my scene card done, and that is my synopsis. So while you're doing your read through, write down what the story is about. Write down what the chapter is about, rather, or the scene. So in this dream, my character went into a dreamscape after choking. So he went to a dreamscape, and I kind of wrote down very briefly what happened, what did he see, because you only really need to write at least just like that, and the back of it if you really need to, because most of the intricacies of the actual scene are going to be here, and so I tend to find that if I am just writing down through my read and writing down the synopsis, it tends not to be so repetitive, because when I started out, I was writing like both, like I was trying to fit all this onto here, and it just made no sense. So after I've done that, I follow these key colours, and I go through my scene and basically just highlight things. So with my characters, I highlight them orange. With my actions, I highlight them green. Pink is subtext, and green is scenery and settings. And yellow is objects and dialogue. So I go through that whole thing, and I just sort of colour code it and use my pens and stuff. And it just makes it a lot easier to say, okay, well, when I'm working, today I'm going to be working on my descriptions or my dialogue. So I can just go straight to the yellow and work on the dialogue. So it's going to make it a lot easier for me when I go and actually rewrite this bitch to just look and say, okay, well, I don't really like the setting, or it's very barren, or it's too descriptive. So I just go to the blue and I focus on that blue section, and I make notes and I do all my shit like that. So this makes it just a lot easier to know what's happening, to find different pointers to work on and to edit if you are wanting to break it down into a lot simpler terms. And I've also I've highlighted the high points in the scene. So this scene had a pretty big high point when a lot of shit was happening and a lot of stuff was exploding. So, and it's good because I know that this is the high point of my scene, and I'm going to need to make that a lot tighter as well. So I hope that made sense in that sense. Sense. Yeah. Okay. Okay there. Oh no! I'll fix it up in a second. So basically that is what your finished first step of your scene or chapter should look like if you are following the same steps that I am. And then basically all I do after that is I get myself a paperclip, $2 at the shop. I prefer these bigger ones because they can hold more, or if you like bulldog clips, definitely I would recommend using bulldog clips. And then I put the scene profile on the front, and I put the synopsis card for my scene on the back. I slip on a paper clip, and voila, there is the first step to my editing process. And it is still being fine-tuned. I can only do one a day because I just get too anxious about doing everything at once, but this method for me works because I love colour. I like breaking things down. I can use stationery, which I love. I am able to see my characters more clearly and see the novel more clearly as a whole. And I have something that has prepared me for the next step. So I'm not sitting down with a big chunk of a novel with a red pen and going through it like that. That will not work for me. This is definitely a method for the creative, for the people who want to take their time but still be dedicated to their project, and also to the people who need that visual stimulation to propel them, who need to see little bits and pieces of their novels like spread out like this, so that they can get a better grasp and be able to like tell what this scene's about. You know, I can say from all this that the scene's in my head now, so when it comes time to it, I'm going to be really excited. And who wouldn't want to be working on something that's this colourful? The only downside would be if you are very skittish around too many colours, you might find this to be a bit confusing. But again, you have a legend, so you do know what colours are, and so you don't have to be so overwhelmed by this. Okay, so I really hope this video was helpful for you guys. I know it takes me a long time to describe things, but I just want to get this sort of out there. This is how I do it, and if you are starting out or having trouble, then maybe try my alternative, I guess. Again, I work from that book, but basically I just took the scene card and some notes and stuff and just took it whatever direction I wanted to. So make it your own, make it work for you. It's got to function, guys. And I will talk to you guys later. If this video was helpful, please let me know. If this video was helpful and you want other people to know about it, please do a shout out, because I would love for more people to understand my kind of thinking behind things, and also I really want to inspire people to actually, you know, want to do their editing. I know it's difficult, but yeah. Okay guys, bye. I will put my word count in the box below. Actually no, I'm going to do a word count the next day. Not today, I'm going to do one the next day, because I feel like uploading this video now. and I can't wait. Okay guys, bye!